What's going on, guys? This is Mikeinoid, and today we are going to talk about Skylanders Swap Force. Just to remind everyone and to inform newcomers to the channel, I am going through all the mainline Skylander games, and we've talked about Skylanders Spiral's Adventure in March and Skylanders Giants last month. So now it's time to take a look back at the third Skylanders game, Skylanders Swap Force. Just like Skylanders Spiral's Adventure, Skylanders Giants was a successful game for Activision and Toys for Bob. The game was so successful that it generated over $195 million in 2012, and that's just in the US. They managed to sell 500,000 starter packs and portal owners packs in the US and Europe in the first 2 weeks. Holy shit. And for one final big number statistic, Activision reported that they made billions of dollars from the Skylander franchise as a whole after only a few months Skylanders Giants was released. So yeah, I think it's safe to say Activision and Toys for Bob made a shit ton of money off of these toys. So naturally, a third game in the franchise would continue bringing in that bread. And it wasn't too long for another company to dive into the Toys to Life goldmine. Disney announced in January of 2013 that they are making an action-adventure sandbox video game that used toys of beloved characters, Disney Infinity. As of today, I can't really tell you if the game was good or not because I never played it myself, but when you take into consideration that Disney Infinity got 2 sequels and made toys of characters from the Marvel and Star Wars universe, it was a given that this franchise would make some money. So if Skylanders wanted to be competitive, their next game needed to deliver, and in February of 2013 they dropped the teaser trailer for Skylanders 3. Skylanders Swap Force, developed by Vicarious Visions, features brand new Skylanders called the Swap Force Skylanders that allow you to swap their tops and bottoms with each other to make different combinations of the Skylanders' powers. These figures had magnets that allowed you to easily take apart and put together the 2 halves. These swappable figures were a bit bigger than the core Skylanders, but they were about the same size as the Giant figures. But in the game, they are the same size as the normal Skylanders. Each of the Swap Force characters are in a basic pose, nothing too crazy, so that each tops and bottoms fit when you put them together. And also, all 16 characters are male characters. Of course, the obvious reason they did that was to make swapping gender neutral, so switching tops and bottoms would make sense. You had 2 Skylanders for each of the 8 elements and movement types, which we'll talk more about when we start talking about the actual game. So with there being 16 Swap Force Skylanders, you can get a total of 256 combinations or swappabilities as they advertise. If you include the 9 color variants, you'll get a total of 25 Swap Force Skylanders and 625 swappabilities. Each figure would cost you $15 in the US. You can get these figures in single packs or double packs, which gave you 2 Swap Force Skylanders. By the way, the packaging for the Swap Force Skylanders had a little wheel you can turn that gives you a little taste of what you can do with these figures, which was actually pretty dope. So the Swap Force Skylanders are by far my favorite gimmick Skylanders. The concept itself is simple, and to be honest with you, it's a little bit weird. I mean, you can make some really bizarre looking Skylanders, but in my opinion, that was the beauty of Swap Force. Not only you can play as over 200 abominations, but you can find a combination that really works well together. If I were to make an example, let's say I really like Doomstone's attacks on his top half, but I feel like he's a little bit too slow. So I would change out his bottom half for a Skylander that would be able to move a lot faster. That way I can get the best of both worlds. Just like getting 16 Swap Force Skylanders, we also got 16 brand new Skylanders and 16 returning Skylanders. The returning Skylanders were either Series 2 or Series 3 figures that got an additional title in their names. We got cool names like Mega Ran Spyro, Hyper Beam Prison Break, Thornhorn Camo. They brought back Camo! Holy shit! And that's not the only Skylanders they brought back from Spyro's Adventure. Tornado and Whamshell return as light core figures. There are 8 light core figures in this game, 1 for each element. They pretty much work the same way as they did in Giants. They glow when placed on the portal and the guy goes light core. They do a bit of damage and they cost $13. It was cool that they brought those 2 Skylanders back, even though they don't have a wow pal like a Series 2 or Series 3 would have. And they even made Flashwing as a light core character who also didn't get a core figure in the game. But why did they still make 5 of the new Skylanders light core as well? It was definitely a weird choice, but hey, this is the last game that we would have light core figures, which I personally was totally okay with. So when you add up all the figures you get for Swap Force, there are a total of 56 figures. And if you add the 19 in-game color variants, the total comes out to 75 figures. I know the amount of figures you can buy just keeps getting bigger. Now that we covered the different figures you can buy, let's move on to the starter packs. Skylanders Swap Force was available for the Xbox 360, PS3, Wii, Wii U, and 3DS on October 13th of 2013. And I knew that by heart because the day before, Pokemon X and Y was released worldwide. So yeah, that was a pretty fun weekend. The starter pack for the PS4 released on November 15th and for the Xbox One on November 22nd, both released titles for the 2 systems. The console version of the starter pack included the game, Washbuckler, Blast Zone, and Ninja Stealth Elf, their cards and stickers, the collector's poster, and the brand new Portal of Power. What the f? So Activision redesigned a Portal of Power for Swap Force, and I personally like the redesign. It's a lot more sleek and compact, and it features the 8 elements around the base. The reason for the change was that these new Portal of Powers had the technology in them that allowed them to read in the different swap combinations that the old portals just couldn't do. So they didn't make a Portal Owners Pack for this game. What they did do was make a Dark Edition starter pack. Remember Dark Spyro from Spyro's Adventure? Not only did they make a Series 3 Dark Spyro, they also made dark editions of Washbuckler, Blast Zone, Stealth Elf, and Slobbertooth. Bundled them up with a huge poster that was double-sided and featured the Spyro's Adventure, Giants, and Swap Force, all in a $100 GameStop exclusive starter pack. Yeah, I didn't pick up that starter pack day one. I think I waited till it eventually went on sale. So as you start up the game, you can choose your difficulty from easy, medium, and hard. And if you beat the game, you'll have access to Nightmare Mode, which is just as hard as it was from Giants. Still a good thing I have a lot of Skylanders. The story of Swap Force is that Flynn is going on vacation to the Cloudbreak Islands, where 4 ancient elemental beings gather at a magical volcano and use their powers to replenish the magic in Skylands. Of course, his vacation is disrupted because Kaos's plan is to evilize one of those elemental beings so that the magic will be corrupted and he will be able to take over Skylands. Since Flynn left the old crew behind, we got a whole new set of characters. Tessa replacing Callie was probably the biggest character change. I thought Tessa was pretty good. She had a lot more energy and was more involved in the story. Some of my personal favorite characters were definitely Sharkfin and Softpaw. Their personalities were by far the greatest for any Skylander character in the game. I'm just saying. Also, Kaos isn't the only big bad guy of the game. We got his mom. It was teased in Giants that she would be making an appearance, and I gotta say, she looked a lot better than I thought she was gonna look. Kaos's mom, which she's only referred to throughout the game,
Chaos's mom,
seemed to be better at being the villain than Kaos, so it was great to see that there was another threat to Skylands that you need to stop. The main hub of the game is a village called Woodburrow. Here you find secrets such as jumping into the swimming pool and going into a side-scrolling area. You can upgrade your Skylanders here, however, instead of Persephone, it's an upgrade pod. You're introduced to it by the Rhino brothers, which one of them becomes a salesperson where you can buy hats, legendary treasures, bonus maps, and charms. The hub in this game was definitely better than Flynn's ship from the last game. However, when you beat the game and every time you go back to the hub, this man Rufus always talks to you, which is really annoying. In total, there are 17 chapters, and 5 of those are big boss fights. So you get 12 full levels, and these levels are pretty damn long. If you want to fully explore a level, they can take about an hour to complete. Since these levels are so long, they put checkpoints midway so you can upgrade your Skylander or restart halfway in case all your Skylanders were unable to fight. You can unlock 2 additional levels with the game's brand new adventure packs, the Time Tower and Shipwreck Island. The previous 4 adventure pack levels no longer work as levels, however you can still use them as magic items. Some of the things you can find within the levels are hats, chests, soul gems, story scrolls, legendary treasures, which has a new purpose, and bonus maps. The legendary treasures now act like how the Lucotron wheels worked in Giants. You can equip them in the main hub that grants you buffs like more experience, money, and health. Bonus maps unlock missions that can get you stars that can rank up your Portal Master rank, which is brand new to the Skylanders franchise. The Portal Master rank increases every time you get 6 stars, and the higher your rank is, the more stuff you'll have access to in the shop and Woodburrow. You earn stars from completing the levels, bonus missions, arena challenges, accolades, and post-game challenges, which we'll talk about later. A big change they did when trying to get all 3 stars from a level is that you don't have to complete a level within a certain time. Instead, each level has dares, which are just items scattered around the level that you need to find. So something you might know straight off the bat with this game are the graphics. Man, does this game look beautiful. I played this game on the Xbox 360 and it really hasn't aged at all, and it just runs smooth as butter. I mean, I'm not just talking about the gameplay, the menus aren't clunky like they were in Giants. Vicarious Visions did a phenomenal job with this game. One piece of detail that I appreciate is that each Skylander has their own artwork in the bottom of the screen where their health is, and when I say every Skylander, I mean every single Skylander. As you can see, they made unique artworks for each series of Skylanders. Of course, this doesn't improve gameplay in any way, but it's just a good example how much detail they put into this game. Like I said earlier, the levels themselves are pretty long to beat. You have puzzles you need to solve and obstacles like bombs, spikes, and green goo. And of course, the biggest change to the level design is that all Skylanders have the ability to jump now. Thank the Lord! No longer do we need to rely on jump pads or Skylanders that can fly to get off the damn ground. While this does make those flying upgrades pretty much pointless, it's still a welcome feature, not only for better level design, but the ability to dodge attacks a lot better. And the enemy roster is just spectacular. Not only do you have Kaos' army to worry about like the Greebles and Trolls, you also have Evilized creatures from the levels as well. The fact that Kaos is turning benevolent life evil and using them against you just makes him seem more of a threat and a bigger reason to stop him. Also, they changed the design of the Chompies for this game. I honestly wasn't too affected by this, however I do prefer the old design since they looked more menacing with their sharp teeth and claws. Here they just look plain goofy, but like I said, it's not a big deal. I had no problem beating the crap out of them anyways. The Gremlin lock was replaced with the shock and bolt puzzles. I personally like these better because they were a lot faster and 2 players can control each of the cube things. You have 2 types of elemental gates. You have your standard gate and then you have the dual elemental gates that require a swap Skylander with both elements or 2 different Skylanders to open the gate. Remember how I mentioned Swap Force Skylanders had a movement type? They come into play when you encounter one of these gates. You just need the correct bottom half to open these gates and you'll be able to play a minigame that focuses on one of the 8 movements: dig, climb, rocket, bounce, sneak, speed, spin, and teleport. These are 1-player games, so if you were playing with another player, they would perform some sort of support move and it would need to recharge after some time of using it. These were okay. I mean, mini games got more challenging as you progressed in the game, but they just felt kind of repetitive, and it sucks that only 1 player can play these at a time. And when you play these mini games in nightmare mode, you better hope you don't get hit because you'll have to restart if your health reaches 0. I didn't like the spin minigames. By the way, if you have a giant, you can open a giant chest, which is cool, I guess. They're just there to reward players who bought giant figures. Despite the lack of multiplayer in the swap zones, multiplayer was good in this game. You're still able to play the levels together and battle each other, which they added new battle packs for the game, and you're able to play together or compete against in arena challenges. The Skylanders can now reach level 20, which will be the furthest they can go in future games. You're still able to complete quests for each Skylander and give them hats, nicknames, and change ownership. The soul gems in this game are for the Swap Force and the new core Skylanders, so all previous Skylanders have access to their soul gem upgrade out of the box. The Swap Force Skylanders have 2 soul gem upgrades since they have 2 upgrade paths, one for the top half and one for the bottom. So Skylanders from Swap Force all have a blue base at the bottom of the figure. All Skylanders from Spyro's Adventure and Giants, alongside magic items and sidekicks, work in Swap Force. And the same rule applies with the figures from future games. They work as long as they were in Swap Force. Honestly, I can talk about all of the Skylanders from this game because I liked a bunch of them, but for the sake of not making this video over an hour, I'm going to talk about a handful of them. Blastzone has got to be my favorite Swap Force Skylander, hands down. The man has bombs, fire breath, and when you use his bottom half with a different Skylander, they definitely get that extra boost. His Dark Edition looks sick as well. Free Ranger is my second favorite. His lightning bolts are able to stun enemies, and his tornado move allows you to pick up enemies and chuck them. I also loved using his legendary variant as well. Night Shift not only has a vampire bite that gains him health, but you can get him extra lives, which was great for nightmare mode. Rattleshake is able to get an armor upgrade where he takes less damage and increases chances for critical hits, which is also great for nightmare mode. And this is Rubble Rouser. I don't necessarily like him, I just letting everybody know that that's his name. Roller Brawl is fantastic. She's speedy, hits hard, and can create saws that can circle around her that do extra damage. Star Strike was really unique because she was able to hit back a star as many times as you want. Pop Thorn may have been goofy looking, but boy did he shoot thorns like crazy. Wind Up is easily my favorite new core Skylander. I'm a fan of his look, his wind up attacks, and his ability to launch enemies in the air with his springs. Mega Ram Spyro needed to be on the list. He looks badass with his horns and his wow pow is just sick. Of course, I loved his Dark Edition as well. Hyper Beam Prison Break wasn't really that great, but his wow pow allows him to carve his crystals into his appearance and they look just like the figure. Thornhorn Camo was just great to see, and his melons become the creepiest thing ever. And finally, Big Bang Trigger Happy gets to ride a giant missile. I don't think I need to elaborate any further. So the game gets the most post content than the last 2 games ever got, which is the ability to replay levels in score mode and time attack mode. Score mode is all about getting the biggest score possible. You can increase your score by attacking enemies, destroying objects, obtaining gold, and collecting multipliers. Time attack mode is basically completing a level with a certain time period. However, you'll be able to pick up objects that freeze time, so it's important you choose a fast moving Skylander and avoid exploring as much as possible. Completing levels in these modes will gain you even more stars, so add that to completing arenas, bonus missions, and accolades to increase your Portal Master rank is definitely a lot for you to do after the main story is over. And finally, let's talk about the 3DS version of Swap Force. They definitely had a better starter pack than Giants because they included different Skylanders than the ones in the console starter packs. You get Free Ranger, Rattleshake, and Volcanic Eruptor with the brand new Portal of Power. Once again, the game is pretty much the same as the previous 3DS games with the same platforming design. Levels do include swap zones as well, so only Swap Force Skylanders can access those. And a feature that I really appreciate is the fact that you can store your entire collection of Skylanders and change them at any time during the levels. Definitely helpful when you need to get certain Skylanders to open gates and not needing to worry about having your collection with you 100% of the time. Skylanders Swap Force is yet another nostalgic game for me. From what I've seen within the Skylanders community, you either love Swap Force or you didn't, and I can totally see why the game gets mixed reactions. Swap Force got a complete graphical overhaul, and most of the beloved characters from the previous games aren't here. Hell, even the levels are completely different now, since they're much longer and you can't just blow through them like you did before. While I definitely understand those arguments, I still believe what we got in return was a better Skylander experience experience. This game had better visuals, more exploration, tougher enemies, a better roster of Skylanders with moves that would affect enemies like slowing them down, stunning them, or dealing damage over time, a better gimmick with the Skylanders, and a huge amount of post-game content. If you weren't able to tell by now, Skylanders Swap Force is my favorite Skylanders game in the franchise. If I had to recommend any Skylander game to someone who wanted to get into the series, I definitely recommend this one. Not only because I think this has better gameplay and more bang for your buck, but finding Skylanders for this game and the previous games are by far going to be easiest than looking for Skylanders from the later games. If you want to be able to get 3 stars from every level, you are going to need at least 8 Swap Force Skylanders, one from every element and movement type to be able to open elemental and swap zone gates. Well, that's going to be it for today's video. Let me know which Skylander from Skylanders Swap Force is your favorite down in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching, and of course, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bro, if you ain't swapping your Swap Force Skylanders, then you're not playing the game. I'm just being honest.
Counter-Strike, come on, give it your all. You've come a long way, but let me just say, faking it's not.